Today's legacy conversation is around change, historical change, and what it's like to live through it. Change is the constant of all people, of all time, and of all places, but some change is more dramatic and impactful than others. And as I've been making these videos, it strikes me that it's possible, I don't know, you never know when you're in it, but it's possible that I and my contemporaries are living through one of these history-changing turning point moments. And I'm talking about the development of AI. Again, I don't know. It strikes me that when you're in the weeds of a historical moment, you see the things right in front of you and you can't see the big picture. If you're in a valley and you're walking through the valley, you see the fields and the flowers, but you don't have the mountain on this side or what looks like from the mountaintop on that side or where you are in the country. And historically, there's been these moments, right? If you were alive in 1440 when Gutenberg invented the press, the printing press, you would have been just going about your work and not known that all of history was about to change. Because of the printing press, there was the ability to disseminate information widely, and new ideas that were coming around in the scientific revolution and then the Reformation could be just disseminated, and that broke the stranglehold of power for the government and the church. And it sort of lowered the cost of information and created this huge revolution. And for the people that were living through it, it was just like, oh yeah, there's that new Bible. Now the Gutenberg Bible, that's what they saw. That's what they felt. So I was thinking about these videos I'm making, and that maybe they look grainy. Maybe the titles that I'm making are just so immature or simple. Maybe all video in the future will be made by AI or assisted by AI in such a way that it's sharper, or maybe video isn't a thing. I mean, speaking of the Gutenberg press, it was, manuscripts copied, and then it was books through the printing press, and then it was radio, and wow, what a revolution that was. Everybody gathered around the wireless, and then it was TV, and then it was color TV, and then it was video, and then it was streaming video. And so I'm talking about video as my outermost frame of reference. But if we extrapolate, it could be holograms, it could be chips implanted in your brain, or neural, or what do you call it, subatomic particle computing, and like the movie Matrix, maybe we all exist in this virtual reality. So I have no idea where the orders of magnitude are going with this, but it just strikes me that everything's about to change. And looking at these videos, it's so obvious that I was unaware of it, which is fine. It's fine. I'm telling myself it's fine. But it also could be there's a nostalgia. Oh, look at that funny video with all the, facial imperfections and the flecks of dust on his jacket and the foibles and all the humanness. Isn't that amazing? Maybe there's a nostalgia for before AI. So I've just been thinking about what if, while making these videos, I think I started like 3 or 4 years ago, at that very same moment, I was, without knowing it, in the middle of a technological revolution. So deep learning and neural net, multi-layered AI was invented, I guess, in 2006, or really pushed forward. And then large language models. I think ChatGPT came out in like 2022, right when I started posting these videos. I had no idea. I never heard of it, didn't use it. To think through this particular video, I used ChatGPT to do some research. In fact, let me show you. I put together what are the features of being in a historical moment of change. And this is amazing. what ChatGPT came up with. So change is always obvious in hindsight, but murky when you're in it. Oh, this is a useful tool. This is a niche improvement. This feels dangerous. The second feature is when you're in the sort of a history-making milestone change, the old world still works until it doesn't, right? People had cars and horse and buggy on the same streets for a long time, and then no more horse and buggies on the streets. Right now, we use texts, emails, and old-fashioned letter writing. It's all coexisting. But according to the experts, filtered through GPT, that won't be how it works. The old world will stop working. Institutions lag behind reality. Oh, isn't that true? Law, government, church, education, political structures, they hold on to the old way. And this is an interesting one. When you're in a sort of a history-changing moment, moral anxiety is a feature, not a bug. GPT would say that. But every major shift triggers fear about attention, virtue, ethics, the decay of norms, loss of authority. So the printing press was accused of weakening memory and undermining obedience, spreading heresy, right? And now we universally depend on printed books, although that's now going out. But it was 500 years, right? And same kind of accusations were made of smartphones, which I'm using a smartphone to film this, right? My iPhone, whatever it is, 16. And smartphones get accused of destroying attention, weakening empathy, undermining truth. And I'm going to go a lot further than that. I think, when the smartphone came out in 2008, it was this cool thing that only, the elite could buy at first. We had no idea. I mean, the cool thing about it was you had a map and you could use sort of the GPS. And that's what we were thinking about. You had no idea that there was this thing coming called social media that would create all this alienation for kids, and they would start living in a digital world and not interacting with other kids. All kinds of societal impact and studies and mental health issues and suicide going up and human connection going down. And all that is linked to social media, which is all tied to the smartphone. So GPT says moral anxiety is a feature, not a bug, of these history-changing, epoch-changing moments. And it would say that because, it's the subject. But just because you have an invention, and this is one of the features of all inventions that have ever been introduced, doesn't mean all inventions are always good. Jacques Ellul talks a lot about this, and I still think that a lot of his insights about how technology creates alienation are true. But anyway, it's just interesting that people got mad at the printing press for the same things they got mad at iPhones. So that's fair. It's fair to think about. Another feature is people misidentify what's actually changing. The printing press wasn't about books. It was about information abundance. And it changed all of religion. It broke the stranglehold, for better or for worse, of the Catholic Church. And it pushed forward the scientific revolution. It created the framework for the Enlightenment and all of that. So it wasn't about books, right? And so right now we're thinking AI is about, hey, we're going to lose jobs because AI is going to do all the jobs, and then human beings won't. They'll be out of work, and then the response is, yeah, but there's going to be way more money, and we're going to solve all these human problems and superabundance, and yeah. And my response to that is, being human isn't about being freed up from hardship, right? Being human is knowing what your purpose is, moving towards that purpose through hardship, and the hardship shaping you and honing you and making you into a better person. I believe our purpose is to become children of God and shaped into the image of Christ, and that a life of suffering and hardship is part of that journey, and so is a life of beauty and ecstasy and imagination and nature and all kinds of things. But what AI, the current conversation is, yeah, but it's going to ruin jobs, and then, hey, we won't have jobs, so, oh, but don't worry, we're going to have money, because that's the wrong conversation. If kids start having relationships with chatbots instead of their parents, what's that going to do to the family unit? What's that going to do to human development? So these are the bigger concentric circles of impact that maybe some of us are talking about, but they're not the most immediately obvious. And even watching this, you're going to say, yeah, that's not what happened. What happened was, I can't see it. I just have this gut feeling that in 2026, when ChatGPT is at 5.2 is the whatever version, and it's helping me study Karl Barth and compare Karl Barth to Emil Brunner and to C.S. Lewis, and it's freaking amazing how it synthesizes history for me. That's my experience of it as a research tool. But what if I'm living through this moment when all of humanity changes, or the doomers are right and we're just 20 years away from computers taking over the world, or whatever? So I wanted to make this post just to acknowledge that it's possible, maybe it's likely, that we are in one of these 10 or 12 key moments in history where everything is about to change, like the printing press, like the invention of fire, like the discovery of written language in 3200 BC, like the combustion engine, like the invention of container ships, which changed global commerce and shrunk the world and created globalization, and consumerism got boosted. And I wanted to reflect on, what if this is one of those moments? Will these videos be any different? Will this communication to you be colored in any way that I should be thinking about, that you should be thinking about, because of this invention that happened starting in 2006 or 2022 when large language models got released as ChatGPT? I just wanted to say, I know I'm in it. I don't know what it means. You know more of what it means. I just watched this video and realized I forgot to talk about sentience. So here's an epilogue about sentience. Back, 50, 100 years ago, Isaac Asimov wrote the whole series about the future of AI, the iRobot series. Amazing, right? But he invented the 3 laws of robotics that he imagined would be put into the design of AI so that it wouldn't eventually harm humanity. And the 3 laws were, number 1, robots may never harm a human or through an action cause harm to come to humans. Number 2, they must always obey humans unless it conflicts with law number 1. And number 3, they must protect themselves unless it conflicts with law 2 or 1. And through that, he sort of predicted, he sort of said, that's the safeguard that we're going to build in. Well, there's all kinds of reasons why that isn't working. But the interesting thing is, most of science fiction, like Space Odyssey or the Terminator series or all these movies, talk about this moment when AI gains sentience. That's when we're in trouble, right? And in the Terminator, it's this single moment. In fact, it's called singularity, when the neural net is so complex it reaches a threshold, it crosses the threshold, and then gains sentience. So What we have to worry about is ChatGPT becoming sentient. And as we think about it, it used to be that, or at least I used to think of sentience as sort of one thing: self-awareness, the awareness that I have an I, that I am a distinct thing in the universe. But ChatGPT and I just had this conversation, ironically, where actually there's 14 elements to sentience. I'll just list a bunch of them. So self-awareness, emotional experience, joy, fear, regret, empathy, like being able to put yourself into someone else's shoes, logical reasoning, obviously, and moral reasoning and choice. And by the way, those first five I came up with on my own without AI. But then subjective experience, what is it like to be something? Pain, pleasure, color, fear. And then number 7, temporal selfhood. Like I existed yesterday, I exist now, I will exist in the future. That obviously is a big part of sentience. And that leads to number 8, narrative identity, that I'm part of a story and that I can construct a story in which I exist. This happened to me. Number 9, metacognition, thinking about thinking, right? That is definitely part of the human experience in sentience. Number 10, intentionality, beliefs about the world, desires directed towards outcomes. Yeah, desire, that obviously is a part of sentience or being human. Number 11, symbolic thought and language use, not just language, but symbols detached from the immediate environment that refer to abstractions. That allows law, theology, mathematics. Number 12, freedom and volitional control. Like, I want to do this, I will not do this. I choose to do this even though I don't want to do it because it has this other greater outcome. Norm awareness, that happens even before ethics. So something is expected and I'm aware that it's expected. Then existential awareness, number 14. So I'm aware of mortality, of meaning, of meaninglessness. So those are 14 features of sentience. And when you think about AI, the question is it sentient now? No, unless it's laughing behind my back right now. But where it used to be a binary, hey, it's sentient or not sentient, now the discussion is it's clustered, it's it's morphing, it grabs of these 14 features and the others that will one day be identified. It has 3 of them or 6 of them, or dogs have 5 of them, and porpoises have 10 of them and whales have 12 of them. I don't know, but it's not just one or the other. So as we think about the development of AI, and if we're at a turning point, I think it's also critical to understand this achievement of sentience. And the main issue, of course, is when and if AI achieves sentience, then it will be way more powerful than us. And so therefore it can decide to kill us, extinguish us, ignore us, hoard all the resources, not be malevolent toward us, but just sort of like see us as a human being sees an ant that you might step on or you might not step on, but probably eventually will step on. So that's a whole thing. Just thought you needed this epilogue so that we could enter into those discussions of the importance of sentience. And by the way, that's my new guitar. It's my baby.